Hey friends, welcome back to another speed build of building The Sims 2 in The Sims 4. Today I'm building the Beaker House from Strangetown in The Sims 2, and I decided to build this on the lot where the the land grab family is. And yeah, I thought that would work well. I did a lot of terrain manipulation on this one since the house is kind of on a big hill in the Sims 2 version, so I wanted to bring that through. And yeah, I ended up struggling quite a bit with the overall look of this house, because in the original version, it's very castle-y. It has like this really dark stone inside and out, but it didn't really make sense in this neighborhood. So I wanted to make it fit in a little bit more naturally. So I ended up looking at a lot of different inspiration photos of like Spanish style and Mediterranean style castles to really get the kind of look that I was going for. The colors and things will come through later on. But I also, when I was building this, I decided to just add grass everywhere because it was really difficult to see or like to distinguish the building from the kind of desert sand. So yeah, that's why it's really grassy. This will change toward the end, but it just made building it a lot easier. And if you aren't familiar with the Beaker household, they are a very strange family. There's three Sims. There's Loki Beaker, Cersei Beaker, and then Nervous Subject. So Loki and Cersei are married, and they are basically mad scientists who are doing experiments on Nervous Subject, or at least that's what's implied. And Nervous Subject's a really interesting sim too. I talked about him a little bit in the last video that I did for the Spectre house, but he is the son of Olive Spectre, and he was basically taken away as like a toddler or a child by social services, and then it's kind of implied that Loki and Cersei adopt him, which is also kind of odd because they're almost all the same age. So it could imply that they are using Elixir of Life to live longer, which would make sense if they're mad scientists. And you'll see it later, but this really large room is basically a big laboratory for them. And then there's like this basement level where Nervous Subject lives and sleeps. It's like a bedroom for him. So yeah, very strange. And for the design of the house, I went with this sort of various levels of half walls to kind of get that castle-y looking look, which I think worked out well. The original version had like this stone wall fence for the upper levels, but we don't really have that sort of item or that sort of fence. But I think this worked out well. And then they had this kind of interesting entry stairway thing, but I just wasn't really liking how it looked, so I ended up just getting rid of it and making it a lot simpler. And I ended up cutting out a lot of choosing like wallpapers and windows and all of that because it was taking forever. But this is the look that I kind of settled on with this kind of tan stucco look with like the brick accent, which I think worked really nicely on here, and it really fits well into the world once I at the end you'll kind of see. And yeah, I really struggled with the windows, so here I've like pulled out a whole bunch of different types and kind of messing around with different colors and all of that. Yeah, and then this front area with the arches, this wasn't actually built up, but I thought this would be kind of cool if there was just like actual solid walls around this kind of front area, this front entrance, with the arches. So I used those arches quite a bit throughout, and then I decided to add an actual roof piece to this tower. There were a few different castles that I saw in Spain that had a blue roof, but I didn't really like the blue color options in the game. So I went with a more like terracotta look. There was also a regular roof piece on the kind of left part of the build, but it just wasn't really working well in here, and I think the flat roof with the kind of half walls just looked a lot better. And I also used platforms to, give it some height variation on the roof pieces there. And yeah, I used a lot of orange accents on here. I think that turned out nicely. And here I'm just kind of adjusting some of the terrain and trying to figure out what stairs I wanted to use. And then I finally realized that there was kind of a coordinating set of stairs that worked well for the arches and all of that. So I'll switch that out here in a second. And then I just use a lot of this kind of orange tile pretty much throughout the entire build, which I think would make sense since the actual the original build was all pretty much the same wallpaper and same floor coverings. I kind of brought that through just with, an updated style. And overall, the build doesn't really have a lot going on inside. Like, there's not a ton of furnishings. So I did keep it quite a bit simpler than my usual builds. There's not very much clutter. They did have a lot of really expensive items in the original, so I did try to choose some more expensive pieces just to kind of bring that through. And yeah, I kind of struggled a bit with the, like I said, the windows. So the ones in the kitchen area will change here later. And the original version had just arches going right into the house, but I didn't think that was super realistic, so I did switch it out for just regular solid doors, and I think that worked out much better. And the overall shell of the build stays the same from the original, but I do adjust some of the layout and the walls just to make it make a little bit more sense. So yeah, just kind of swapping out the stairs there, and then I use these smaller windows for the lab area. These are the same ones that I use on the tower, so I thought that would make sense. And the Sims 2 version had a few different staircases, both like inside and out. So there's actually supposed to be a staircase up to the roof from this kind of secondary level, but I decided to go with the ladder instead. Just to kind of switch it up a little bit since it was just feeling like a lot of stairs. So yeah, I switched that up, and then yeah, just finishing up some of the doors on the inside here. I used quite a bit of just base game stuff overall, which I think worked well in this style. And here I'm adjusting the layout a little bit in the kind of primary suite. So there's like where the door is to enter is like a sitting area. And then there's the bathroom in the middle, and then the actual bedroom on the other side. I kind of adjusted it to make the hallway area a little bit bigger, and the bathroom I just kind of extended into the sitting area. And then yeah, just kind of adjusted the tower a little bit just so I can make it like a full bath, because the original had kind of a half bath in there for this other bedroom, and I wanted to make sure that the wider doors that I'm using would fit. And then I also adjust the stair placement here, which also makes the upstairs bathroom larger, which is nice where all these windows are. So I think this just made a bit more sense. And then there's kind of a matching fence that I used, and I did have to adjust this little hallway / bathroom area, but this bathroom downstairs is actually still a full bath, which is nice. And for the kind of laboratory area, I originally made it kind of fit the rest of the house, but I didn't think that really made sense once I thought about it for more than 5 seconds. So I do make it feel a little bit more like an actual laboratory. I'm kind of swapping out the doors here to figure out what makes sense. In the original, they just had like arches going into this, which I didn't, wouldn't really make sense in a real sort of laboratory. So I just kind of adjust the floor plan a little bit and add in these more secure looking doors and different wall paneling and fences and all of that. And I actually ended up building this on the lot across from the Beaker House, which wasn't really my intention, but it could be interesting for storytelling purposes since, Olive presumably hasn't seen Nervous Subject since he was a toddler. And then since he was adopted by the Beakers, so could be interesting that he's been living across the street this whole time and she never even knew. And since the original had fireplaces in the living room and in that sitting room, I decided to just kind of bump out a chimney piece, which also gave me an opportunity to use that kind of orange brick again, which is kind of nice to have it in multiple places on the build, because I was going to try to put brick on like another part of the house, but I couldn't really find a place that I thought it made sense. So that was nice to have that on there. And yeah, then I think I will start the kitchen here. And the kitchen is fairly basic. I use these base game counters that always, look pretty nice in these sort of Spanish style houses. I'm not sure if that's was kind of the point of those counters, if they were designed with that style in mind. But I feel like they always look nice in that style. And then I do use some of the appliances from Growing Together, the fridge and the stove, and then also the vent hood here in a second, which I thought suited this style pretty nicely. And then the dishwasher actually kind of coordinates pretty well with that too. And then they had the dining area just kind of with the kitchen all in the same sort of space. So I just did that as well and used some more expensive chairs. And the dining table isn't as expensive. I didn't use like the most expensive one, but I think it still worked nicely. And then I was going to add in like an island, but it was just feeling kind of cramped with this big table in here too. And like I said, I don't do a lot of clutter throughout, especially in the kitchen. Normally I would have all sorts of things like on the counters and all over the place. But I imagine that they're, very neat, very tidy. So everything like has its place, like in the cabinets. You don't really see a lot of it. So yeah, and then just kind of pulling out a couple other things for the lab eventually. And then I was able to use this really big plant in this like tower area. I really never get to use that, so I thought I would throw that in there. And over in the living area, I keep it fairly basic. I start with these couches, but I do swap those out for something a little bit more true to what was in the original. We don't really have the same objects, of course, so it's just trying to figure out what works best. And I really like that leather chair, so I added that in. And they had a bunch of different bookcases, pretty much where the windows are in this version. So I just put them on the side, rather than doing like the archway into the lab, since I didn't really think that made sense. And yeah, here are the couches that I ended up using instead. I believe they're just base game ones, but I thought they suited the style a little bit better. They're not quite as comfy and cozy. I don't imagine that the Beaker family is entertaining very often, so they're not really, interested in people being too comfortable while they're here. And yeah, I try to use some more expensive artwork and things like that. Maybe they've, gotten money in nefarious ways with their mad scientist stuff. And yeah, just kind of filling in some of these spaces with some more decorative pieces. There were a lot of plants in the original version, so I tried to add, a bunch of different plants throughout the build. And I didn't realize it at first, but when I went back to look through the Sims wiki, apparently Loki is the brother of Aaron from the Singles household, whose house I did recently. Yeah, kind of interesting, because you don't really see that in the Sims 2. At least you don't see them really interact. So I just appreciate how many different family connections that they created in the Sims 2 between all of the different households, in the neighborhood. I thought that was good attention to detail. And so now I am working on Nervous Subject's bedroom. And he actually had quite a few nicer things in his room, like a computer and a bookcase, although the bookcase was kind of junky, so I used something similar to the original. But he also had a stereo and an easel, and then I was going to put a table next to it, but I just swapped it out with a dresser, which I thought was a little bit more useful. And yeah, I just kept everything, kind of monochrome, dark. Did add in some plants, since I do have quite a few plants, both in his bedroom and throughout the build. But yeah, as far as basement bedrooms and a secret lab while you're being held against your will, I think it looks pretty nice. So I don't know if I would want to live here, but at least it's somewhat comfortable for him. And yeah, now I'm just kind of working on the lab. So I'm just pulling out a whole bunch of different things, mainly from Get to Work and Strangerville. Both of those have a lot of really great items. In the original, there were a lot of different items from, or that you would unlock through careers. So we don't have all the same items, of course, so I just tried to use things that you might find in a laboratory. And I saw this stolen ATM item in the catalog, and I thought that would be kind of a funny, part of the story, is that maybe one way that they make money is just by stealing ATMs and breaking into them. Kind of random, but I thought that was kind of funny. And yeah, so I've got a computer in here. I've got the treadmill from the hospital that they would do tests on, because I'm assuming they're doing all sorts of weird tests on nervous subject. And yeah, there's the chemical analyzer, and I also put in the big invention machine. I don't know how well any of this will work on a residential lot. I should probably test these, but some of these things might get swapped out if I find that they don't really work that well on a regular lot. But I thought they were still good for the overall storytelling for this family. And now upstairs, I'm in the seating area for the kind of primary bedroom suite. And I used quite a bit of the Book Nook kit items. I thought those worked really nicely in here. So made it a little bit cozier than the rest of the house. I imagine this is where they spend a lot of their time when they're not in the lab. And yeah, so nice and cozy in there. And then here is the bathroom. Pretty simple, same cabinets or counters as the kitchen, and used a little bit nicer bathtub from Growing Together. I imagine maybe they've renovated this a little bit. And yeah, also pretty much free of clutter in here. I imagine everything is put away in the cabinets. It all has its own little place. So thought I would keep that theme going throughout. So here in the actual bedroom, I ended up using quite a bit of green. I don't know, it just it worked. It just worked in here. So I did have to size up this rug using the tool mod. I don't normally like doing that if I can avoid it, but I really like that rug. There aren't really a lot of nice green rugs in The Sims for some reason. At least none that I really liked in this space. And then I also, unfortunately, had to use that seat from My First Pet Stuff. It just fit in there really well, and I like the colors on this one a lot more. And this is also the only room with a TV. I imagine they don't watch a lot of TV. They probably have some weird moral judgment against watching television, that it, just a waste of time and blah, blah, blah. Which I don't. I love TV. I think you should watch more TV. I don't know. But here in the other bathroom, there's actually a lot of bathrooms in this house. So this is, a full bath for a guest, I guess, if they ever had one. I can't imagine who would be coming to visit. But yeah, so, it's got a full counter and sink, shower tub combo, toilet. I added in this hamper, just kind of fill up some space. Though I didn't actually add laundry in this build, but you definitely could. I'm sure there's plenty of space for it. And then this room is also just a bedroom in the original version. So I just did that again in here. Wasn't really sure what else to turn it into. I suppose you could put different skill items in here if you needed that. But yeah, I just kept it as more of a guest bedroom if they ever have people over. And then there's also this attached small bathroom. The original, it was just a powder room with like a toilet and a sink, but I wanted to try to fit in a shower, but I need to test to see if they can actually use that, because it's a little crowded in there, and I didn't really want to use the I don't know, the version from university where it's like doesn't have an enclosure, because I don't know, I don't really like using that in small bathrooms like that. Like, I know it doesn't really matter in The Sims, but I feel like it would just be spraying water just everywhere in the bathroom. So I don't really use that unless I'm like building a custom enclosure for it. But yeah, I'll have to test that and see if that shower actually works. And then outside, it's, you know, pretty bare bones as well. They didn't have a lot of items in the original, and I can't imagine them spending a ton of time out on all of these, like, patios and rooftop spaces that they have. Seems kind of a shame, really, because they've got a ton of really great entertaining space, but they don't seem like the entertaining types to me. But yeah, here on the roof, I added in a telescope and some gardening plots. You know, maybe they need some different plants for their experiments, so they've got space to do that. And yeah, they did have a grill and like a table area on this kind of ground patio space, but I put that up on the kind of first level, and then I put in a fire pit down here, maybe in case they want to burn some things, like some incriminating evidence perhaps. And now I'm just going to be working on the landscaping for the lot. You know, again, not overly landscaped. This whole build is like very basic, really. But I do add in a fence all the way around. I thought that would make sense for them. They would want plenty of privacy. And then added in this matching gate. I thought that looked nice. And then just kind of adjusting some of the terrain. I wanted to pull it up a little bit closer on the foundation around the kind of sides of the build and kind of soften out the rest of it. And then, yeah, so then I bring back the sand for most of the lot, and then I kind of do the grass to line up with the side parts. I thought that looked nice. And then, yeah, just kind of very basic landscaping here. I think this could be a really cool build for a different family. You know, it'd be really great to have a pool and a lot of, you know, a lot more landscaping and things going on outside. But since it's just them, it's, you know, pretty basic, not a lot of like flowers or, you know, really overly decorated space. A lot of cacti kind of around in the sandy area. Yeah, not too much going on. I wanted to add in a couple of bushes here, so I just kind of flattened out the terrain there so it would they wouldn't be floating, but I did have to swap them out for something a little bit smaller since I think the footprint was too big on the other ones for it to fit properly. Yeah, just doing a little bit of terrain paint, and then I will switch over and do the lighting for the whole lot. And yeah, I didn't go, you know, over the top with lighting, since they're probably not spending a ton of time out in these spaces, but I do use this nice wall light, and I couldn't figure out, you know, what I wanted to do for a lot of these, so I ended up going with the flat point, like, I don't even know, like floor light thing. That worked nicely, and I was gonna add a whole bunch here on the front steps, but didn't really look right. And then I use these lights at the front to kind of shoot some light on the gate. Thought that made sense. And yeah, use that kind of older style light fixture throughout, for the ceiling light at least. But I do use quite a few lamps in some of these spaces. And then for the lab, I use this light from Get to Work. I thought that worked nicely. I use some, you know, desk lamps for the bedroom area. And then I was trying to use some like spotlights to kind of aim down on the canvas, like while he would be painting, but it wasn't really working. So I just ended up using some kind of longer hanging lights that worked pretty well. And yeah, that's pretty much gonna wrap it up. I'll leave you with some screenshots here in a second. And yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.